I'm going to show you how to install the steering damper mount kit that we have made for the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R and S. This model does not come with a pin holder threaded hole like a 790, 890 and Northern, so we had to make some special brackets for it. Make this video as quick as possible. I've loosened up some of the bolts and removed some already, but I'll tell you what those are. And also I'm not going to torque any of the bolts. I'll tell you the torque spec, but I'm not going to apply the thread lock on any of the bolts either. Let's start with the glove box. Here's the glove box, similar to the 990 950s. It has 4 bolts, 2 here and 2 in the front. It comes off very easily. And there's a plug that you have to disconnect. Take this apart. You don't really have to disconnect it. You could leave it on the side. Just remove it to make things a little bit cleaner. First things first, we need to remove this one single bolt here. It's a M8 socket with a 6mm bolt. I remove the bolt, keep the bolt set it aside, and the kit that the part of the kit that holds the pin for the steering damper bracket is made of 2 parts. Here's one part and here's the other part. This is the pin holder, we call it, and the pin goes right in it. We're going to install it on top of this bracket once this bracket is in place. And to put this bracket in place, it's very simple. We just have to there's a plastic bracket here, is very strong. You can just lift it up, and this little tab that we have here is going to match the frame on the bike, and we're going to use that bolt to secure it in place. So just going to lift this up with one hand and slide this bracket in place, and there it is. I'll lift it up and make some adjustments until the hole here lines up, and then you want to press this bracket down so it meets with that little notch on the frame perfectly. Then we will have to put that one bolt that we have removed, we're going to put it back in place, apply some thread lock and tighten it to 10 Newton meters. I'm just going to hand tight it to speed up the video. All right, next is that we're going to put that pin holder portion of the kit in place. There are 2 notches on the side. Match those with the bracket that you already installed. And there are 2 bolts, stainless steel bolts, that are included in the kit. And we're going to use those 2 bolts to put this bracket in place. The bottom bracket is threaded. These, again, we want to apply some thread lock here. Everywhere in this video, when I mention thread lock, I mean the blue thread lock, the medium strength. Different brands make it, and we actually, if we have them in stock, sometimes we include a little 10 milliliter sample in the kit for you. Stuff we should be using is this Loctite 243. Number 242 is also possible, but that's not oil safe. It doesn't do well when in an oily environment, so we usually stick to 243. That's the one that's in your KTM manual as well. Okay, so this is in place. The next step is to install the damper mount bracket. And there are 2 versions of this bracket available to you when you purchase this kit. This is called the wide version, and this is the standard version. The standard version gives you the same width of the handlebar clamps as the bike comes, and that's 90 millimeters. So as you see, Once I install it, my handlebar clamps stay exactly the same place, slightly higher, but 200 millimeters higher. But with this kit, they're spaced out a little bit. And why would we want to do that? We also call this damper bracket the PHDS bracket. The reason for that is that if you want to install one of these guys, which is the XTRIG PHDS vibration dampening clamp, you will need to, and you want to be able to adjust your handlebar wherever you want, and all of these 4 different positions. You need the wider version to clear the steering damper in the middle. There's no downside of using this, except if you want to install any kind of other aftermarket parts that rely on this distance, any kind of bracket up top or anything else, then you will run into problem. But if you're not going to do that, this wide bracket can be used with PHDS brackets, with PHDS handlebar clamps, or with the stock clamps. So in this video, I'm just going to install the standard clamp. And to start, we need to remove the handlebar. The first thing I do is that I put a bit of towel up here, because when I remove the handlebar, I need to put it somewhere. Once the handlebar is off the bike, it's a little bit, actually I like to cover the screen. So when I'm putting it down, don't scratch the screen. So these bolts are already loosened. I'm just going to remove them. Careful, as soon as you loosen up the other side, the handlebar is going to turn and drop. I'm holding it with my elbow. Doesn't drop. And just have to grab the handlebar and gently rest it somewhere. Try to keep the handlebar as upright as you can. I know it's not easy. Just find a nice resting spot for it. Right? Let's get difficult. Okay, here we go. Then the next step is to remove the handlebar clamp, the lower portion. These may be a little bit more difficult to remove for the first time off the bike. That's because the bike comes with these bolts that are, they got the thread lock applied on them, so it would be a little bit sticky, but it will come out. And now I'm gonna, at this point, put the bracket, either this one, let me show you what the other one looks like on the bike as well. Oh, this way. So as you can see, this is the wide version. It meets and locks in with the top triple clamp nicely, and it gives you wider, slightly wider, about 108 millimeter wide grip. And this is the standard one. So just put it on the bike. It's a pretty tight fit. And I'm going to put the bolts back in there. I'm using these titanium bolts. We have them available on the website if you're interested, or you can just put the stock bolts back on. I'm using this power tool. Generally, using power tool on the bike is not a good idea, but this one has a clutch, so the sound that you hear is a clutch, is not the impactor, which is a big no-no to use. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm gonna put the handlebar clamps back on the bike. This time they're gonna go on the a damper mount now, and a quick note about the positions. If you look at the clamp, you see the bolt is slightly off center. We're about 3 millimeters off center. This is to give you two different positions on the same hole. So if I turn the bar this way or this way, then the clamp this way or this way, I'm gaining some offset here. And we've given you two sets of threaded holes here. So in combination with those two and the two positions you can get from each of those, you have 4 different positions to choose from. My personal favorite is number 1, not too forward, and with the bar turner forward like so. This is the reason I like this position is that it keeps the bar the same distance from my shoulders as it was on the handlebar clamp, because as we're introducing a little bit of rise, which we have to accommodate the damper, it's not much, it's absolute minimum that we can have. The bar will come closer to me because of the angle of the forks, but by moving them forward in this position, we keep the bar the same distance to the rider because it comes up and also goes forward, so it stays the same distance from you. We also sell 10 millimeter blocks that very nicely match with the bottom and top, that can be used without this damper mount kit or can be used with this damper mount kit, and you can stack them up underneath if you need more rise. So at this point I can put the handlebar back on the bike. Got the bar, put it back. I'm just gonna put it in any position that it likes to sit for now, and put the bolts back on. So there are little marks here, just like every other. Oh, got the wrong bolt. Handlebars, you can choose to install it wherever you're comfortable. When you're tightening these bolts, I'm just going to tighten it a little bit so it has a grip and it holds itself up. Then I'm going to come back and explain something. It is important that when you are installing these clamps back on, you leave the similar gap on this side and that side. Don't tighten the bolt on one side all the way and then go to the other side, because what happens is that this side bottoms out and the other side has a big gap. What you want to happen is to, when you finish tightening the bolts, you have some gap in the front and some gap in the back. So it doesn't have to be exact, but I don't want to bottom out on one side. I didn't really make adjustments, but at this point, if you want, you can leave the bolts slightly loose, sit on the bike, and then move the bar exactly where you want it to be. Like in this case, I want it to be here. When you first buy the bike, it's set on, there's a mark here as 0. You can go like this, down, but you kind of want it to be centered. Okay. So for now, this is good enough. Okay, the handlebar is in place, and now is the time to put this glove box back in. I like this because it reminds me of the 999 50s. It's a pretty nice touch, and also by just removing this, you can access the air filter, which is a fantastic thing about this motorcycle. You will have to plug in the USB charger, and the wire is kind of long, so tuck the wire in nicely to the side or to these cavities as much as you can before putting the box back into place, because otherwise it gets caught underneath and you won't be able to push this thing into its place. And there are 4 bolts. The 2 front ones are M5, they're smaller, and the 2 rear ones are smaller, and 2 front ones are larger. So I'm gonna put the rear ones in first. You see these are smaller. Both of them have shoulder. So the M5s go in the rear, and the M6s go in the front. So I'll tighten this. Okay, so the glove box is in place, and now is the time to install this lovely steering damper. If you have noticed, I installed the glove box first, then I installed the steering damper, and you have to remove the whole thing in the same order. Meaning that if you want to remove the glove box, you'll have to remove the steering damper, which is easy. It's just 2 bolts here, and this thing comes off. There's nothing we can do about that. It's just the geometry of the bike. This is so tight here. Let me say a few words about the damper here. This is a Scott steering damper, arguably one of the best dampers in the market. This is the one that you see everybody uses in the Dakar races, and all the professionals use this. And it's not to go fast. It's not to go not just for the professionals. This does a lot more into it, which it's just good for another video. But in short, it has a high speed dampening and low speed dampening, plus adjustments on the side of how far dampening you need. High speed meaning that the speed of the handlebar, how fast the handlebar moves, not the speed of the bike, of course. And the lowest speed dampening is this. This is very effective, especially when it comes to off-road riding, and it makes the ride safer as well. As when you're riding on a trail, you hit a root or a pothole, or you hit it, all of a sudden you hit a sandy or muddy spot, the handlebar doesn't just slip to the left and right. And these bikes, like many other newer KTMs, do come with the handlebar steering damper, which is at the bottom, but those are not adjustable at all, and they just basically give you a linear dampening, which is not desirable because you ride the bike in different environments. Anyway, so to put the damper into place, you just basically put it in place, line it up with the slot on the pin, with this, and that's it. That's all you have to do. A quick note about the arm. The arm on this, the arm that is required for this kit is called Step +8. You see a +8 stamped here. I don't have the nut installed here because I want to show you something. This is very similar to the regular damper arms that is used for on many other kits on many other bikes, such as the smaller KTMs, 500, 530s, 450s. They all use this step standard, and step standard looks pretty much the same, except it's a little bit shorter. It's 8 millimeters shorter, and there's a very good chance that this arm, if you put it on your damper, would be compatible with the other kits as well, meaning that you can just take this off, put it on the other bikes, but not the other way around. You need the step standard step +8 to be able to use this kit. And when you buy the kit, even if you don't buy the damper from us, we include one of these arms with the kit. If you buy the full kit with the damper, we install this on the damper before shipping it to you. So you basically take it out of the box and install it. If you need to remove this arm or an arm from your damper, we highly recommend using one of these tools. They're fairly inexpensive. They're available on our website. It's called Link Arm Puller or Link Arm Removal Tool. it sits on the damper arm like this, and then you tighten up these 3 screws. Then you, once it's nice and flat, you will tighten this middle bolt, and it pulls the arm straight out. People try to use this, you know, screwdriver on the side. You're going to damage the damper. It's not worth it. These are very cheap and effective. To put the arm back on the damper, to press it into place, if you don't have a press at home, it's fairly easy. You put a larger socket over the arm here, something large enough that covers the damper but doesn't touch the threads. And on the other side, you put a smaller socket. You kind of have to balance it, put it on the vise, tighten the vise, the bench vise, and push the damper into place. It is important to put a socket on the back right against this pin, because there are O-rings inside. You don't want to crush them. Don't just clamp the damper like that. Anyway, so this is already ready to go. All I have to do is just put it into place like that, and then put 2 bolts into place. That's it. So the 2 bolts go like this and like that, and basically that's all you have to do. If I can find my Allen key. There it is. Sorry about that. Here we go. But this thing is in place. I'm just gonna line it up. And this damper comes off very easily with just removing these 2 bolts. Just be careful if you install the handlebar in the closest position to you. You may not be able to get a straight shot at the bolts. That's why one of these Allen keys with the ball end comes really handy. Tighten these to 10 Newton meter and use Loctite. These are all the spec will be on the screen for you to see, as well as the other M10 bolts to fasten the handlebar. That's it. You're good to go. The question that we often get asked is that, do I leave the factory steering damper at the bottom in place or not? On my own bike, yes, I would remove it. It doesn't hurt to have both of them, but they kind of work against each other. Doesn't really add any benefit. I don't see any benefit of having that, and it will come out with simply 2 bolts at the bottom and 2 bolts on the damper body and 1 bolt on the arm, and comes off the bike. This thing is far more superior than the factory steering damper that comes with the kit. Well, that's it.